Hello, I'm Soul. I am a World of Warcraft commentator, a player, a free tester, a shill, and a hater. It depends on what I most recently said. This video is targeted for specifically the World of Warcraft developers and game director Ian Hazzikostas, even if the odds of any of them sitting down for a listen to this is pretty much zero. But for everyone else, go ahead and put me on your second screen. Consider this as a one-sided Q&A of sorts, or more like an open letter to the developers with an invitation for you guys to answer it. Frankly, it would be nice to sit down with one of them for a Q&A, but those tend to be not exactly rehearsed, but practice, which leaves me and my weak little beta personality not a lot of room for follow-up. So I'd rather ask questions here in my own safety, knowing what the non-answers would be and then try to follow up. So it's a little bit sad, right? That it feels as if our feedback has to come out like this. But in light of harassment from some folks on the internet, I thought to instead come at you developers and such on the WoW team and invite you over to answer a couple of questions. And I'm long-winded, by the way, so if you just want to get to the questions, I'm going to have them in the list in the description, or you can use the navigation thing to jump to the section and then skip over at least some of my bloviating, and that's for me. I'm doing that for me, okay? The first question to ask is probably the biggest one. Why is it still, like this many years later, is communication from developers to players still such a big challenge? Like, we've seen it throughout the years. I've seen this cycle of non-communication followed by outcry and this sort of non-committal statement that, oh, we're going to try and improve and so on and so forth. But while I'm sure that some of these fans are just asking for their class to be fixed, right, and this is how you're going to do it, I feel that it's more important for you guys, for the developers, to just come out of your caves like once a month, once a quarter, okay, more like once a month, to just say hi, to just talk, to let us know how you're doing. Like, what's your ridiculous home setup looking like a year into the work from home situation? Like, I would love it if the developers, if you guys were like, oh, here are some of the big things that we're hearing from you, and here is what we've got to say about concerns A, B, and C. And now you may not like this, folks, but we hear your concerns about subjects D, E, and F, but we don't have anything on that at the moment because we're going to talk about X, Y, Z. This is what it's about, and send your feedback over to some forum thread in the corner. So placating is the word that I'm trying to use here. I think that most fans understand the challenges of trying to cater to a really wide audience that's often fragmented and contradictory. I hear people say that the developers are out of touch, but I can at least sort of understand that, as maybe the devs are out of touch with that audience while connecting with someone else, and they're like, oh, that's perfectly good content, whatever. But I don't think anyone is satisfied with silence. Silence is what leads to folks getting upset and then writing their own uncontested narrative as to what's really going on. And you know what? I'm going to offer a layup. This is so stupid. But here's what I propose. Or maybe I'll just do this and see what happens. So once a month, starting now, I guess, I'm going to pull the internet and gather up targeted questions on certain topics specific to like what's going on right now, maybe some more broad topics or whatever. And I'll do it at no cost. I'll do it for free. OMG. Well, okay, actually, I'm doing it for the attention and the clicks, but And then you folks over at the WoW team can choose a number of them, one of them, whatever, and you'll answer it in some offline recording or a blog post or something. Like, forget the pretense of being live and unrehearsed. I think that's less important than just having something to say. And so we'll have like a monthly open letter and the developer response. This is not a great idea, but this is just me trying to introduce some idea of trying to give a welcoming invitation for dialogue. There's another little bit of communication, but I find it contradictory to have an alpha and a beta and a player test realm that's really open and transparent, as in we can see everything, while the direct statements and communications from the developer team is not great, like I had just mentioned. I question the purpose of these sorts of test realms because we've seen numerous examples where testing comes too late, or feedback on features feels really ineffective. But also, at the same time, thanks to data mining and people like me, we can look at development under the hood and we can see the sometimes nasty innards of what's there, and we can make assumptions, we can write narratives and pretend that we know what the developers are thinking, and then write the most clickbaity story that we can. And in the case of story, we spoil almost the entire thing months before release. It makes those weekly unlocks even more aggravating because, well, thanks to data mining and people like me not shutting up all the time, that's all that's left to do, is to just wait to experience it on our actual characters. So I guess the question somewhere in there is this kind of public testing worth it to the team? Because I can see an investment into making some sort of closed off sandbox. I think that'd be really valuable, where you can direct players to check out only certain features and class changes and balance and so on and so forth, without the distractions of, running mythic keys for practice. It's obvious they do it all the time. Okay, let's get to a new question. It's been a year. It's been less than a year since Shadowlands launch, so we could argue whether it has been enough time or not. I think it has been, but I think now is a good time to ask if the execution of meaningful choice came with a good enough payoff. Now, I'm sure that the team overall is really happy with it, and there were mistakes and lessons to learn along the way. I'd love to hear what those mistakes are, if any, but I think a lot of people agree with me when I say that, unfortunately, yeah, it missed the mark. I think there was a lesson to learn with Covenant, where I think that it's totally fine to challenge players with making investments into a character, like from powering up a Covenant and getting all them soulbinds and so on and so forth, but adding in a very easy switch. Like, it could have been not so dissimilar from learning weapon skills from back in the day, where you needed to power up each weapon, but to switch it, it just took a single click. Choice is cool, and investing into those choices is cool. I can see that as a meaningful choice, but the friction is something that I think was a step over the line, because, come on, it's a video game. If I play a paladin and a mage at a high level, I need to work on both of those characters, to gear them up and everything, but I don't need to complete 2 resets worth of questing to switch between them. You know what I mean? I bet you if the team could manage to somehow hotfix those quests away and just let the switching happen over at the Enclave, I mean, yeah, you would get the grumbling over, oh, well, they finally gave in. Finally, they listened. Lol, the YouTuber person was right. Lots of sore winner talk. But I don't think anyone would be necessarily upset either. They'd get over it, I think. I think people would be even more interested in playing their characters to learn all the covenants on that one character or multiple characters, which would, it would start more conversations about account-wide campaign completions. That's another thing to look into. So there's going to be this sort of cascading effect. But the takeaway is that it's just a game, and I feel like people just want to play it. Switching is an unnecessary friction. Okay, so here's a question. Do you think you missed the mark with Mythic Plus, at least in some respects? I remember in the olden days, it was marketed to challenge players in such a way that it's like, hey, you know what? Getting random pugs together just isn't going to cut it. You're going to want to build a small elite team of folks to clear these higher keys, hence battle tags and guilds and all that stuff. But instead, the community's answer was to create their own entire social system with Raider.io. And now, the World of Warcraft has its own take on it, although that's more for giving rewards than to replace the social aspect of it. But I feel that it was thanks to Raider.io's response to the way that keys function, it's become it made Mythic Plus more or less a competitive space that can feel pretty unwelcoming. What makes it feel bad now, after a few years, is that the social interaction with wanting to find someone with the right key at the right level and the right skill level, it feels really forced. Now, I'm not a big Mythic Plus person, so maybe this opinion doesn't matter too much, but I gotta ask, like, are keys even necessary as opposed to just, wanting to go into the dungeon that you want to with the people that you want to at the level that you just qualify for? Now, I can see a situation where if people can just choose their keys and levels freely, that they'll just run the easiest dungeon each week, depending on the affix, all for their vault reward, or other degenerate behavior like, oh, these first couple pulls aren't working out, I'm gonna reset that dungeon, if things just start off poorly. But my response to that would be, so what? Like, if people want to do their one and done, what's the big deal? That can't be designed around in favor of just letting people play. New question, but it's somewhat related. I want to ask about endgame and how between the available options, it doesn't feel like it's very well balanced among the population. Now, I say it seems that way because I don't know any better, but speaking broadly, endgame, I'm just going to posit some stuff. Endgame is rated PvP and Mythic Plus and organized rating. That, normal or higher rating. And then there's outdoor/casual content. And I think the casual content got the short stick. Shadowlands 9.0, like, we got the Covenant sets and the World Quest rewards, and that was it, aside from the Anima farm. And that's, in my opinion, just didn't feel good. Shadowlands 9.1, there's the Korthia set, which I think is much, much better. However, it's limited to just Korthia. You just get the pieces, you get the research, you get the rep, and thanks to that double renown gate, you gotta kind of wait a while. So it's like why is there only a single route? As if casual content was the only sort of solo content that you can do. Because the way that I see it, casual content is everything that is not the big three: rated PvP, Mythic Raids, or Mythic Plus or Raids. So I'm talking about doing the daily or heroic and getting some of those relics or reputations. And maybe the lore context wouldn't fit well here, but I'm also talking about doing some world quests and farming resource nodes. Maybe we can find stuff in there too, and the Trial of Style and time walking events and more. Maybe even legacy content. Old dungeons and raids can contribute in small ways to current content. So for example, like imagine the potential of running non-Shadowlands content to pick up a legacy token, and the legacy token could be converted into a current token for current content. So there's lots to balance there, but I'm just trying to shoot an idea over, but that's what I'm getting at for balancing endgame activities and adding a little bit more relevance to content that has long passed. And there's a ton more to add to that, but for now I'm gonna leave it at that. So next question, this is kind of a follow-up to Ian's statements during BlizzConline, but do you guys feel that the World of Warcraft is on a path towards dissolving the faction divide? Now, I know you want to say something, the factions are a pillar of the Warcraft franchise, whoop-de-doo, but the way I see it, especially these days, that sort of friction, that divide, does not feel like it's healthy for the long-term health of the game. Like, you guys used that phrasing before, long-term health, when talking about the notions of borrowed power, those systems that the team can go nuts with before taking them away, as well as the pruning and then the unpruning of abilities. And if you do think that World of Warcraft is going in that direction, if there are plans for the next expansion to be one where players, regardless of their choices, can just play together, I think that those plans should be revealed way sooner than later. It's like making the announcement, hey guys, this is what we're planning. All players will be able to guild and group with and communicate with each other. That's the plan, but there's going to be a lot more to talk about soon, but get ready. And then while you're at it, just say yes to player housing too. I know, I just had to get that one out. Sorry. I say to reveal this sooner as opposed to waiting for the big expansion announcement, to which we have no idea when that's going to be, to drop a really cool bomb, like a positive bomb. Let people like me speculate on how this faction divide is dissolved for the next few months. Just give us that hope. And as for the divide itself, I know that it's symbolic of the franchise, but it's also, I don't know, it feels like a relic that represents division and all the ugly parts of it. And I think it's time to let it go. Step away from faction pride and towards cooperation and friendly rivalry, unless, we're in war mode, of course. Because we've had 17 years of this, with growing faction imbalances that frankly are just going to get worse. And it sounds scary, the idea of Horde and Alliance like teaming up together, but when people see faster queues and more groups and guilds to choose from, I think that people will get used to that really, really quick. And there are tons more things that I could bring up in just this open letter, like borrowed power and evergreen systems, paid carries, but more player housing, and so much more. But then I'd be here forever. I'd be potentially talking into the ether. But I'll bring up one more question, and that's with regards to harassment. Okay, maybe it's not a question, but whatever. There are things going on in-house, in your guys' house over there, and I truly, truly hope that the situation improves. In World of Warcraft, there are some superficial changes that were made, and we're seeing now in the Burn Crusade PTR that the /spit emotes was nerfed, but what else is in the works? I'm asking because in the wake of everything that's going on right now, I'd like to think that Blizzard and the WoW team wants to do its utmost to be a safer place to both play and create. So when it comes to playing games, are there discussions on what to do about in-game harassment, like ignoring an entire Battle.net account, or griefing, like I myself have been a victim of that recently? It feels like there's too much leeway given to offenders, which risks scaring victims away who don't feel like Blizzard is looking out for them. I don't think it's true that the WoW team wants to keep an aggressor's subscription money, hoping that the victim of harassment will just kind of suck it up and soldier on. It's an awful narrative to paint, especially now, but I just did it. And that's it. That's going to be it for now, which I know is really unsatisfactory for viewers. There's a lot more to talk about. And I know that since this is coming from me as a mouthpiece, my tone isn't going to be as aggressive as you'd like it to be, but I'm going to treat the developers like people with the same way that I'd want to be treated. So you can like or dislike or comment or signal boost however you like. And there's a vehicle, but I'm grateful to everyone who's listened. See you later. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.